Hi guys, this is Carrie, Fullerton Professional Organizing, and today I'm talking to you about Jules Acree, Acree, and she has a YouTube channel, and she talks about digital self-care and how not to allow your digital life to be overwhelming. And she talks about about some of the things she does. She does not touch her phone first thing in the morning. First thing in the morning when she wakes up, she tries to do other things, do things that will keep you accountable before she ever picks up her phone. Keep your phone out of sight, so it's out of sight, out of mind. She charges it somewhere else on the other side of her room. She does not keep it next to her bed. When she wants to spend time getting work done or time with friends and family, time with her husband or spouse or partner, she wants to make sure that her phone doesn't dominate her life. And so she does whatever it takes to keep that from happening. She says that she time blocks her day. She has 10 to 15 minutes where she uses to answer all of her messages. She says, do not take phone with you on breaks and lunch. Read a book or talk to the people around you. She says, you are worthy of rest. Be present with family and friends. She says, intentional productivity. Set boundaries between work and personal. This is great for those that work at home or those that feel like they have to dedicate every waking moment to their business. She says you don't have to do that. Set boundaries between work and personal. Batch response to messages so that you're not answering messages all day long. What do you value and how to set the boundaries is what you want to think about. What do you value? And then she talks about how she sets boundaries. She uses an app called Notion. That works for her because it's an all-in-one workspace. She can share on all of her social media platforms, her YouTubes, and anything that she needs to share about her business. She says, how do you set boundaries at work? She says, brain dump all of your responsibilities and bucket them. That means, everything that you need to do in a week, you can brain dump. Then you can divide out throughout the 5 days of the week, all those things that need to be done, using the first 3 that are the most important. You have to put them in the most important to the least important. And then time block. Make sure you time block, not in a perfectionist sort of way, but every morning you get the most important things that need to be done. Do those first. We've learned that from other podcasts. And what time is the best time of the day for deep focus work? Sometimes people have more energy first thing in the morning. A lot of times you don't have your best energy right after lunch because you've eaten a big meal and you may be sleepy, but others may have more energy in the afternoons. Whenever you have the most energy, make that your deep focus work time. I think a lot of people can do that first thing in the morning after their first cup of coffee, but only when you have the most energy to sit down and do your deep focus work. Her creative work is better in the morning before she ever answers or touches her phone. She tries to get her deep focus work done before she even touches her phone. It's out of sight, out of mind. And then she does her batch messaging for about 20 minutes before she puts that phone away again and enjoys her lunch and friends and family. Now, because she works from home, her and her husband both work from home. They have some things that they've also done as they make Mondays run day. So they run together on Mondays and they leave their phones at home. On Wednesdays, they go on bike rides and they leave their phone at home. On Fridays, they have dog day where they take their dog to the park and they leave their phones at home. So those are just some tips. And she calls that digital self-care, because you don't let your digital life control you. You control your digital life. You don't let that control you. And as you know, you're still going to make sure you get it all done. Now, here's a kind of a review of what she says. Technology is everywhere and often hard to get away from. Jules gives us her tips on how to get to set boundaries with our devices to allow ourselves more time for ourselves and our families, friends and families. Try putting your phone across the room overnight to avoid being tempted to check it first thing in the morning. Because remember, she said first thing in the morning is when she gets her most important, focused, creative work done. What Jules has to say is, I was working for myself, trying to figure out how I can still be creative while finding structure. I started to hone in on intentional productivity, intentional living, and simplifying. When our devices are both for personal use and work, it's hard to set boundaries so that the two don't intermix and take over our everyday lives. Most times when we are losing focus, it is because we are task switching, which creates interruptions and reduces our productivity. Notion is an app that allows you to contain all of your work needs into one platform instead of having several you have to keep up with. Don't get into the habit of constantly reacting to things that are coming in. You may need to have a conversation with someone to explain the need to have uninterrupted time to work. Now, that is what she says. If you don't work from home and you work in an office where people are constantly interrupting you, you may have to put do not disturb on your door. If you work in a cubicle, you may have to have talks with people and make sure that they know from this time to this time, this is your deep focus work time. Please do not bother me. Instead of thinking of when you don't want to use your phone, think of the other activities you do want to enjoy and make time for. And that's when I told you she does, she has run day and dog day and bicycle day. That way, on their breaks from work, that's what they do, I'm assuming. Or she's just saying those are times that she doesn't want to use her phone, and instead of saying, hey, I don't want to use my phone, blah, 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 she just says, hey, these are some activities we do, and we're not going to take our phones with us because we want to be intentional. Have boundaries and intentions behind each technological device you bring in. Try task batching. Set aside a block of time when you will focus on only one task, such as responding to all your emails and messages. To avoid distractions and help with focusing on a task, turn off notifications or put your device in do not disturb mode, or put it in another room, in a drawer. Instead of filling time with your phone, practice some self-care activities such as journaling or pursuing a hobby, because you've got to have time where work is work, especially, and like I said, a lot of this is you can apply in the office, but most of this is stuff she's talking about at from working at home. Working at home, you have to have a division between your work life and your family life, because it can take over. It can take over. Sometimes it'll overlap, but you have to be very intentional with that. If you happen to have the type of job where you're on call all the time, then I guess, some of these tips may not work, but most of you do have the type of job where you can make sure that after 8 p.m. at least, you can put it on do not disturb at 8 p.m. I tend to put mine on do not disturb at midnight because I don't like having all the texts and notifications throughout all night. Those dings do wake me up in the night, so I put it on do not disturb. It comes on automatically at midnight. But some of you have jobs where you're on all the time. But some of you can also put it on do not disturb at 8 p.m. so that after 8 p.m., that is your downtime from people from the outside texting you from work. I mean, when you have a family, you have to be intentional. You have to be with your family, and you can't all be answering emails all day and all night long. At some point, you have to have a no disturb time. All right, guys, this is a little bit of a short one, but it just reminds us of how we need to be intentional with our families, and that we can't let our electronic devices take over our lives, especially if you have children. I see too much in restaurants where the husband and the wife are both on their phones and the child is also on their device, and here they've gone out to eat and nobody's talking. Or I've seen it also where the kid's not interested in their device and the parents are not talking to their children, or they're not or the husband and wives are not talking to each other. Everybody's on their phone and no one's enjoying any conversations at all. My husband and I, we sometimes do look at our phones while we're eating, but it's mostly to show each other something. But we most of the time try to put our phones down and not, and we try to talk to each other instead of looking at our phones all the time. All right, guys, I will talk to you later, and I will see you on the next podcast. Thank you for watching. I appreciate you.